But then I've been having people message me. And
Oh,
so
wow, the broadcast is going?
so then I just stopped. Okay, good morning, everyone. We are live. This is Common Sense America, and I am Eden Hill. You know what? We have a fabulous show this morning, and we've already been sitting here and we've been laughing, drinking our coffee, and my mascara is already running. But I tell you what, it's just going to be a fabulous Wednesday. It may be hump day, but it's Wednesday. We're going to have a great day. Today is October the 5th, 2022. And I'll tell you what, let me get my calendar out here really quickly. We are 33 days until midterm elections, November 8th. So for all of you who were listening in yesterday, with the just the news talking about the North Carolina ballot fraud, I encourage you to educate yourself on the Senate, the House races, the local races, and the state House races. Also, a teaser. We have 81 days until Christmas. So get ready for this. We're going to be doing some fall events. I am taking this microphone. We are hitting the road. We are going 95 north. We're going to be visiting upstate New York, apple picking, pie baking. Dear God, help me. I cannot bake a pie to save my life. We're going to also be going to pumpkin patches, and we're going to be visiting with family and friends. And then as we hit October 31st, going into the first couple weeks of November, my house transforms into Hallmark 2.0. We are going to be doing we're going to be doing different events, different videos, how to decorate a tree, how to bake Hungarian pastries, which I do know how to do. That's family. I can do that. And many more amazing things. So, but until then, keep sending me your comments on Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube until I get censored, which will probably be pretty soon. Also, LinkedIn. I'm so grateful for everyone. And then on Defenders Live, our live stream, our talk radio live stream. Thanks to you guys for carrying my show. And now I've been anticipating this interview all week. I have the great honor to introduce my friend Katherine Haley, who's sitting right here. Who's laughing at me because she's been up since how early? She's on Arizona time. Let's see, how early have you been up?
I woke up at 5, which, so Arizona, you probably know this, but Arizona is always Mountain Standard Time. So we don't do daylight savings. So in the summer months, we are Pacific Daylight Time. And in the winter, we're Mountain Standard Time. So at this moment, we're 3 hours behind you.
Oh my goodness. So. Well, thank you so much for getting up this morning and joining me. You are a good friend. That is loyal. That's a loyal friend.
Well, for you, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about, wait a second. Let's talk about the weather here. It's freezing cold here. I finally got my fall weather. But when you shocked me yesterday about the digits that you said you were in, tell me what you guys are in right now.
Well, we're under 100. I think yesterday was a high of 94, which is like decisively cooler than 115. We were joking a bit ago about I'm wearing fall attire, but it might be a little hot for that. But anyway, definitely not wearing like tall boots, warm sweaters. Unless your home is on like high, the AC is on super low, and in which case you might need a blanket. But today it's going to be 92.
Are you one of those people? And I know you know my love for fall and the Christmas time season.
Yeah.
So I was tempted to put the air condition on in our house at a really low temp so I could start wearing sweaters and start decorating, because I was like, if this doesn't turn soon, I'm going to lose it. Do you ever consider doing that to get into the holiday spirits?
No, I don't. But I will tell you, growing up, my mom's originally from the East Coast, and she found her way here in the early 70s when she married my father. And she, in the wintertime, would open all the doors and windows so that you would have sort of cross airflow so that she could have a fire in the fireplace.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
But I will tell you this. So I moved from the East Coast back home to Arizona at the end of January 2021.
Mhm.
And I just was like, oh, all these wimps in the winter, it's like, a balmy 55 degrees and individuals are in their winter coats and you're sort of like laughing at them because you're like, that's a beautiful spring day. You wear shorts.
Yes, exactly.
So I'd been home for 6 weeks and we had a week of gray and it kind of drizzled and it was cold and it was a high of 55 and my house didn't have any furniture in it and I was freezing, like chattering teeth. And I thought to myself, can I wear a winter coat and hats and gloves, the whole thing? And I was like, no, you cannot wear a winter coat in 55-degree weather. You cannot bundle up. Like, that is absurd. And so I compromised. And yes, I would wear like a ball cap instead of like a winter like ski cap. And
Mhm.
then I would wear not like a winter coat, but I'd be like, "Oh, I'm wearing like a fleece with like 3 layers underneath it." Um, so anyway, I just was like, "My word, you adapted home fast." Like, just it was really
Mm.
funny.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, let's talk about that. For all of those who are tuning in on Common Sense America and on the Defenders Live radio stream, I have here with me this morning, this beautiful Wednesday, October morning, Katherine Haley. She's the founder and the partner of Oak Rose Group. But before that, we met in 2006 when we were on the campaign trail for Senator Rick Santorum. And then after that, we went on to the powerful halls of Congress, the marble halls of Congress, as she served for the Speaker of the House, and I served for a congressman from Iowa. And from that point on, the rest is history. But I tell you what, I remember getting your email when you were headed to Arizona.
Oh,
And we had known each other when you were at Philanthropy Roundtable and all the powerful things that you've been doing. So, first and foremost, I want to hear about what, after all the years of being in DC, what led you back to Arizona and to start the Oak Rose Group? I'm so excited to talk about this because I was studying your website, but
oh,
I wanted to know the meaning behind the name.
oh,
So,
sure.
so first, let's talk about your transition from the powerful times of being in DC, and we both know what that's like, back to
Yeah.
Arizona, and then talking about Oak Rose Group.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, just one, thanks, Eden, for the honor of being here and being with all of your listeners. It's a real gift. I've admired you and your career and your ability to communicate and advocate for so many different issues and policies. And I commend you for putting your hat in the ring to run
Oh,
for state office and with integrity and with faithfulness. And so it's a real honor to be here and to join all the different other women that have come alongside you with common sense. So as far as Arizona, so I was born and raised here, and yeah, I put my head down and worked really hard and headed east. I went to the East Coast for college and found my way to DC, and I intended to be a doctor. That was what I felt I was called to do. And
oh wow.
yeah, and or as the best laid plans as individuals of faith, oftentimes we have, we really lean into what God has called us to do. And I felt really passionate about it. But over a series of events, really, and I finally ended up on Capitol Hill, I thought for what would be a year before going to med school. And it really ended up being the perfect place for me to use my gifts and talents. It took me a long time to figure that out. But like other moments in my career, I've turned to the Lord to ask, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And sometimes it's taken me years to hear what He wants me to do, and sometimes there needs to be some like agitation and frustration, and in 2019 felt like, yeah, I think it's time to go home. I think it's time to go home, but some other events took place, and so dug in and continued to work in Washington and serving individuals through my work at the Philanthropy Roundtable, which was an incredible gift.
Mm.
But it was November 7th at 8:45 in the morning, and I was like, it is time to go. It is time to go and take what I have learned over the last 20 plus years in Washington and sort of dig into the community and help rebuild civil society, so to speak, in my home state. I was a little bit alarmed of what was happening. And,
Yes.
I believe in a role of limited government, and I believe that local helping neighbor is the way to help restore. Just felt it was time. So, and I should also say my parents are not young. They are getting up there in years, and it helped me. I began to realize that this might be an opportunity, one, to cultivate a relationship with mom and dad in adulthood, and also be there in the event that they might need some extra hands. So, packed up, like, I think a couple weeks after the decision, I was here for Thanksgiving, stayed in Airbnb to figure out, like, could I do this life here? And it was the greatest peace that I think I'd ever felt, being home, driving, north to south on Scottsdale Road and looking at the Camelback Mountain. And it was, I don't know, it's probably like 80 degrees. And it was like, yeah, I am supposed to do this. And 6 weeks later, I was the owner of a house and had left my job. And a few weeks after that was headed south, or started head to the Southwest. So it was, it's one of those things that over the course of the last year and a half, I could not have predicted. And it is only by the grace of God that, I get to do what I'm doing. So,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I think that's just so powerful, because with the women that we have been able to be surrounded by in our years of Washington, the women of faith, the women in leadership, and the women of faith in leadership who we have just been exposed to, and also us and the journey that God laid before us. It's just really neat to see how in those transitions, he is so faithful. In those transitions, he's the protector and the great provider. And it's just really neat to see what happens on the other side, even if it is, somewhat dark, but he's still able to. And he reveals such beauty and such light on the other side, which I absolutely love seeing.
Yeah.
And when you sent out your initial email to all of us about Oak Rose Group, I was really intrigued, because I always remembered you very heavy in education, very heavy on that topic. And that's something that hits really to the core with me. And I had shared with you before we went live, when I was on the campaign trail, I had so many different teenagers volunteer, door knocking, standing at the polls, wanting to be engaged in this amazing process. But it's amazing what you get out of teenagers after you feed them pizza and Coke. and some of the things that really came up on the campaign trail was education, CRT, the infiltration of what they're trying to, push into the schools. And I've had many different leaders on here, from Youngkin's campaign, from Youngkin's team, a Rhode Island school teacher who was put in teacher jail because she didn't want to teach it. And she's been all over the news. And so seeing the path that you have laid and seeing what God has done and how he's gone ahead of you, and looking at your site. And I have the site oakrosegroup.com going across the bottom for those who are listening, to just check out their work, their advocacy, the way that they're connecting community. Talk to me about the vision behind this, since you are the founder and the partner. I'm just thrilled to hear that, because I see education woven through it. And I really would love to, hear more about what you are doing at that level.
Right. So, as you rightfully said, I spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill, spent 13 years. Most of the time was working on education, workforce, anti-poverty related programs, and really what I would say social policy. And had the then opportunity to work for the Philanthropy Roundtable, where I helped donors across the country use their resources to support social entrepreneurs across the country, particularly in the education space, but also in workforce and healthcare and other things. And so when I left the roundtable, my thought was, how can I use the talents that I have for good and
Mhm.
work in particularly the issues that I care a lot about?
Right.
Um, and so I didn't want to start a firm, the Katherine Haley Group or something like that. I was like, no, that doesn't have a good ring to it. Um, but like, I do want to have a firm that that really has some symbolism, that has a nod to my time in Washington and my time now in Arizona. Came up with a lot of names, and there's a lot of funny stories about that. We can talk about that later. But in full disclosure, I lived on Oak Street. I now live
Oh.
on Rose Lane, which is kind of funny. But as I was thinking about it, like words, particularly, both bring up images and also significant and meaning. And when you think about oak trees, you think about their strength. Like they're just massive, they're huge
Mhm.
trees and they provide shade, but they
Yeah.
also have unbelievable networks. So oak to me was about strength and deep networks.
Mhm.
And roses were really about beauty, like this cultivation, and we want to bring beauty into the world. But they're
Mhm.
also about resilience.
Mhm.
And I noticed that this last summer, my first time or living through the summer here in Arizona, a long time. And I have a rose bush, and I don't do anything to cultivate it and help it live vibrantly. But it bloomed all summer, last summer and this summer. And so there was something about the resilience that I don't think I fully grasped, but
Mhm.
roses signified resilience and beauty. And the group is about bringing people together. At
Mhm.
Oak Rose Group, we're really about bringing people together, those that we hope to serve, those that we hope to influence, but
Mhm.
it's about the bringing together. And so our mission is we're a strategy consulting firm
Mhm.
that is committed to promoting the policies, ideas, and organizations that lead to human flourishing.
Mhm.
So we joke, my partners and I joke that we're in the human flourishing business. So,
Love it.
whether that's in education and ensuring individuals have access to a great, meaningful place to learn that is unique and right for them,
Mhm.
but also gaining the skills and the talents they need in order to lead meaningful lives.
Mhm.
So our clients range from philanthropists and networks of donors. So we sort of focus our work in three areas. So
Mhm.
convening, bringing people together so that they, uh, one, have a better understanding of the work that they're doing, or to share best practices, or in the case of policy, you really can't do any policy changes as a person of one. You really need to bring together a coalition. We do a lot of connecting. So in our context of helping individuals that we work with a lot of startups. So
Mhm.
those that are getting off the ground, like, are there other players in your field? How are you going to help have an impact? Connecting them to philanthropy, connecting them to other leaders in different states based on their growth strategy.
Mhm.
And then the last is like analyze, but it's also really like the analyze, but also sort of the startup platform, like what is necessary for an organization to thrive.
Mhm.
So understanding the nuts and bolts of the organization. And
Mhm.
frankly, I personally could not do the work that I get to do if not for the business partners that I have, who are based in other cities around the country. So we have a growing team, and
That's
feel
great.
very fortunate that we get to collaborate and work together and serve our clients in the different ways that we get to serve them.
One thing I noticed about your work and how it's carried over into the state platform, if you will, I noticed the governor of Arizona has you. Is it on the education board? Did I get that
Yeah,
right?
the State Board of Education. Yeah, that it's like, wow, that's been a fun adventure.
Yeah, talk to me about that. What does that looked like for you? What kind of role do they have you leading, knowing that that is in your toolkit? And what does that look like more on a national spectrum for other states that they could potentially implement better tools for the schools and school choice?
Yeah. So the State Board of Education is comprised of 11 members.
Hmm.
And in statute, their individuals have different criteria. So
Yeah.
we have citizens. I'm a citizen representative, but we have educators and we have community community college president and university president, superintendents. And we have actually, I'm so impressed by the individuals that Governor Ducey has appointed over the last number of years. He's wrapping up his 8th year, his second term, and is unfortunately term limited. But we have the opportunity to oversee the state standards and the state accountability system. We don't engage in specific curriculum that's really at the local school board and school district level. We also have the opportunity to oversee a number of different initiatives, everything from our Move On When Reading. So that's like our 3rd grade reading standards, workforce related, so career pathways and such in our K through 12 system. And then also things, the empowerment scholarship accounts. We oversee the ESA program. We are not responsible with its implementation, but we are responsible for its oversight and accountability. And the ESA, Arizona was the first state in the country to pass, really, I would say, money following the child. So prior to the summer, you had 5 criteria in which students had the opportunity to use the ESA. They were a student with disabilities. They were a Native American and lived on one of our reservations. You could be a student that was in a D or F rated school. There's also military. So if you're a parent, you live in the state and your parent serves in the military, you'd be eligible. And I think I've hit all 5. Special education is another one. And so individuals that are eligible, they would get funds and they would be able to disenroll from the traditional public system or even a public charter school. And then they could seek private options. So the money state funds would follow that child, either in if their parent decided to homeschool them, they could use their dollars to curate the curriculum and the training and the support that that child might need, or they could go to a private option. And many students do choose a private option, either a traditional private school or a micro school or a learning pod. All of those things are permissible. And then this summer, the governor signed a universal ESA. So under the leadership of State Representative Toma, they passed a policy that said any student in the state of Arizona that is eligible to attend a K through 12 school would be eligible to receive an ESA. And so there was a challenge. There was an effort to collect signatures to put it on the ballot, which would have forced an injunction on the policy. But those that opposed the ESA, they failed to get the signatures. And it goes into effect. It went into effect September 23rd. And so literally our 1.1 million students in the state of Arizona are now eligible to apply for the ESA, which is pretty amazing that we have this mechanism where money can follow a student to the best learning environment. I should also say that Arizona is unique in that we have open enrollment. So if you live in Phoenix and you really want to go to a school in Mesa, you can go to a public school in Mesa, and that's an exciting opportunity. And we also have 21% of our students attend charter school. We have all kinds of different charter schools, which again are public schools, but they have a lot of autonomy and flexibility. And so Arizona has a lot of choice and opportunity. And I think as Governor Ducey talked about and others have espoused and advocated, is that parents are really a child's first and best teacher, and they ultimately know what is best for their children. And it doesn't matter, what your background is or what your income is or what the color of your skin is. At the end of the day, moms and dads know what is best for their children. And when given those options and provided the information, they're going to choose great things for their kids. And so I had nothing to do with the policies that have been passed over the last decade, or frankly, the last almost 30 years. But I am so grateful to be in a state that really believes that moms and dads have that freedom and that opportunity. So,
That's so powerful. And here's something I wanted to bring up to you. I will be headed over to Salt and Light Academy, which is local to this area, right after the show. And
oh, cool.
it's what you would call a homeschooling school, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So the director is a dear friend of mine, Maestri Friesner. She's also known in this community as an author, educator, and she's also been a mom for safe houses for human trafficking.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were talking. So she's having me go over and talk about civics and elections and things of that nature. But something that really struck me hard the other day in an offline conversation that I am free to say, the suicide rates of kids and teenagers have gone up.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to ask you, bigger umbrella picture, what are your thoughts on the state of education since COVID around the nation? I mean, Arizona, gosh, I want to pack up all the kids we mentor and get them out there. I think they have such a great opportunity to have top-notch education and opportunities in that space. But I'm sitting here looking at the Christian schools we have here, the homeschooling opportunities here that Marcy's providing. What are your thoughts on the bigger picture, the state of education around the nation, um, as it pertains to post-COVID? Because you mentioned the parents know best
Yeah.
in all aspects. What are your thoughts on that?
There are individuals across the country that dug in and did an extraordinary job. And those
Mhm.
were individuals in all different types of learning spaces, traditional public, your neighborhood school, magnet schools, charter
Mhm.
schools, private schools. And then there were others that just really hung back. And I think they
Mhm.
did an incredible disservice to students. I was at an event yesterday, and a very generous philanthropist, talked about, hey, the problem is that, okay, kids are learning, so let's get them all Chromebooks. Let's get them so they can learn from home.
Mhm.
Let's figure out
Mhm.
the internet connectivity and get them hotspots and such. And still, like, there was no learning on the Chromebook, because either the school didn't provide sort of an online learning component,
Yeah.
or they just sent home packets. And sometimes some of those students, they were then responsible because their parents unfortunately lost their jobs, or they were an essential worker,
Mhm.
and they needed to go to work. And so, young child at home is now taking care of the other younger siblings. So
Right. Right.
engaging in their, coursework wasn't really an option. But there are other schools that really doubled down, and either they figured out ways to keep their school doors open, and they figured out how to do social distancing in a healthy way.
Mhm.
Um, and then, yeah, so we had sort of this really interesting dichotomy. The preliminary results of what we call the NAEP, the National Association for Education Progress, or known as the nation's scorecard,
Okay.
or nation's report card. The preliminary results said for 9-year-olds, it was the first time you saw extraordinary dip in reading and in math. Like, it was, reading has kind of at times gone up and down. And you think about 9, that you're usually in 3rd grade. And
Right.
that's a real critical moment for
Yes.
young people. On If you
Yes.
can read at grade level on 3rd grade, then barring certain circumstances, the world is your oyster. You're able to read, you're able to learn, you're able to think critically and be able to answer rigorous questions.
Mhm.
Um, but it was really a disheartening moment, I think, for us to be able to see, winter 2020,
Right.
and then take test scores again, like winter 2022.
Right.
And students had significant learning loss in that time. And I think for us, thinking ahead, this is a real critical time. And we also saw it obviously with math, which was the first time, I think, going back to the 70s or so, that we had seen math
Right.
results dip. But that's a problem when we think about the future, and we think about both, like, us as a citizenry, us as, our capability to do effective work.
Mhm.
Um, that when you don't have that foundation, that means we're going to need to do a lot of catch up over the next number of years and really double down on ensuring our kids have a rigorous education.
Right.
And certainly parents can do that, but some aren't equipped to be able to do that either because they're working or maybe English is not their first language. But
Right.
you can equip and empower them with the resources to be in an environment that allows those kids to thrive. So I am personally concerned, but I am grateful for the organizations I get to collaborate with and serve and work with, and the bright spots that I get to see across the country. It's pretty extraordinary.
That's wonderful. It's 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Common Sense America. We are on Defenders Live radio talk stream. And then also, if you are tuning in on LinkedIn, Facebook, and every other social account, we have Katherine Haley. She's the founder and one of the partners of the Oak Rose Group in Arizona. We have been talking about the state of education in our nation. We've been talking about the powerhouse of the state of Arizona and what they are doing for our nation's children, which is absolutely amazing. I love it. And we are also talking about just the amazing career that she has had in the time of being in Washington, D.C., serving on Capitol Hill, serving as Speaker of the House, and also serving at the Philanthropy Roundtable. I also wanted to ask you just a couple more questions before we wrap up. Talk to me about your faith journey and just how, and some of the tools that you would love to share with younger women who are looking for a career, whether it's quote in politics, in education, starting their own group, being entrepreneurs. Give us a couple ideas and tools from your kit. Don't give your full recipe away, but and what that's looked like for you in faith, and then also just a strategic journey that we plan, and then it just becomes something even more amazing.
That's so true, Eden. We can plan. You and I were talking earlier. I felt called to be a doctor. And I had a whole sort of worldview of hope and healing, and I ended up in politics. That was not part of my plan. But I think it just right from the beginning is, our hope really should be in the Lord. It shouldn't be, it should not be it's not about us. At the end of the day, God is our savior. He provided a sacrifice for us to redeem that which is broken, which me in particular, I was broken. I'm a sinner and I fell short. And so I think right at the beginning is be grounded in a church where they are teaching the word of God.
Yes.
And be in community and fellowship. I think that is incredibly important. We were designed to be in community. You think about the very beginning, Adam's out there, naming the animals and the reptiles and the birds and the fish. And God's like that. It is not good for Adam to be alone. So we were created to be in community. And so I really encourage anybody that's out there is to be in community, find a great church that is literally teaching the word, not like platitudes, but literally line by line, getting an understanding of what the Hebrew and the Greek are, and how that applies specifically to your life. So I also encourage individuals to be in Bible study, just that sense of individuals studying the word together, asking the big questions. How does it apply to my life? Reading the word, I think, is really important.
Yes.
And then prayer. For me, I have found personally, I think there's this, threat of how do you commune with God? Honestly, it's like a ongoing conversation. Yeah. And sometimes I need to be quiet to really hear what God's saying. And I have learned over the years that particularly in moments when significant changes have occurred in my life, that I need to be in silence. So sort of almost like a silent retreat. So being still, yes, reading and journaling and stuff, but not having the other distractions of phone or television or being with others, but just being in that sense of quiet and solitude. and stilling of my heart and my mind so that I can really hear what he has to say, has led to a lot of fruit. And then for those that are trying to figure out, where it is that they're going, have a mentor. I've been so
Yeah.
blessed by some extraordinary mentors of mine. Certainly, when I was in college, I had a great one, Dr. Harold Koenig, who's one of the premier researchers in faith and medicine. And then during my time in Washington, there's a number of women: Ann Krager Patterson, Clydette Powell, Cherie Harder,
Yes.
and then others that just for seasons of my life have come in. But these are women who knew me and loved me and would ask really thoughtful, probing questions that helped me think at times differently instead of like my way is the only way. Like, have you thought about the implications of your decision?
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
you do not live in a vacuum, Katherine. You live in community, and your decisions can be both hopeful but also harmful if you're not thinking in a more holistic way. And so those are some of the things. They're pretty foundational, but without them, I feel like it's really difficult to sort of carry forward. And
Yeah.
then now that I'm a little bit more seasoned, although I feel like I always will need mentors, is reaching back. Like I feel like my life is so rich of there's younger women that have come behind me that I have an extraordinary gift of being able to walk alongside and learn from them. So friends of mine like Abby Gadara and Emily Jansen and other young women, Victoria Watson. These are young women that I am so fortunate that I get to walk alongside. And so I think there's that sort of going up and going back down. There's great examples in scripture of that sense of community and that generational impact. So
Yes.
those are some things that I would say. They're not, unique, but they're, I feel like that they are the things that have helped me move forward and frankly take big risks when I don't know that I would have done that normally.
Yeah. Well, as we were sitting here, we had a comment come in, and obviously it's my father who's a part-time producer on the other end. And this sounds like him. He just said, "Katherine is such a valuable asset and wealth of information in the field of education." Agreed, and agreed. What I'm going to be doing is, as we wrap up this segment, you said something about Cherie Harder, and I was thinking about asking her because for you as well and a mentor, I even had the opportunity to be one of her roommates when I was transitioning. And she was such a joy. She was so great for me in so many aspects. And I am just blessed to know her, but also blessed by her giving. Every time I was ever with her and then staying with her, and then another friend of ours who was pregnant at the time, she was staying. We were just having this amazing women time of just lifting one another up. And I'm just so grateful for her. I want to see if we can't get her here as well.
Oh, I think you should. Oh my gosh, I'm in awe of her and what she is doing with the Trinity Forum. I know she's been there, I think, since 2007.
Yes.
Maybe 2008. My dates, I think, are post-COVID. My dates are off a little bit. But, what she has done, and particularly since COVID, the organization has just skyrocketed. They've been able to do these online conversations, and she's been able to bring the intellectual capital of thoughtful believers in so many different spheres to expose individuals literally around the world.
Yes.
They have, and it's this idea of like, whether it's mental health or science or political discourse or scholarship, there's so many different things that they cover, and they've been able to give men and women the opportunity to really wrestle with the big questions and figure out how does that then relate to me and how I live out my life and my, in the spheres of influence that I get to have. And so if you do get Cherie, I'm sure she'll say yes. Your audience will be totally blessed by her. And
yeah, no, I completely agree. I would love to get her. And as you were talking about the political discourse, and I sat there and thought about what we did during the Bush and Bush administration, the faith-based office, and what we did in Santorum's team and what you did on Boehner's team of lifting the good, the true, and the beautiful. And I have, right. So I've continued to carry that in my journey, and especially bringing it to the show, because that is what, at the end of the day, is really going to change the hearts and minds, whether it is the president, whether it is a sitting senator, whether it is a candidate, or whether it is parents who are continuing fighting on the local level for their parental rights. So I just sit here and say we can make such a huge impact in our faith by being able to be in those communities of lifting the good, the true, and the beautiful, similar to what she is doing and what you're doing at Oak Rose Group. I have just a couple minutes left. What would be some final words that you would love to say to the audience? Keep in mind, it is conservative women who are from Eastern North Carolina, also women around the nation who are supporting the show, and then also those who are military families who are in my backyard, veteran families who are right here as well, and then the young generation. What are your final thoughts on sharing? Just not putting you on the spot or anything. Grab a cup of coffee if you need. We've been going 40 minutes strong.
I think it goes back to sort of the mission of the of Oak Rose Group, and that is to promote the ideas and the policies, the organizations that lead to human flourishing. And what does that look like? I think each of us have a call and responsibility, whether you're a parent and you have little ones that you get to nurture, or all of us generally are neighbors. We have someone that lives next to us. We have a responsibility to dig in and get to know people. Something that I found increasingly over probably the last decade, maybe it's been 5 or 6 years, is that we have closed our ears and we've forgotten we've lost the ability to listen, and we've lost the ability to discourse or have discourse. And that is like engaging and listening thoughtfully with both ears. We have 2 ears, we have 1 mouth, but thoughtfully listen to get to know people. And I think for us to be able to move in a different direction as a country is we need to learn how to get to know people again. And as a result of that relationship of getting to know, even if they have a different belief system than you do, you will have a human connection, because you will recognize that that person is a mother, a father, a worker, a caretaker, a daughter, a sister, a mother, an aunt. Like we all have different roles, and we can find similarities and common ground. And by listening, we can help build these bridges that I think will ultimately help restore the fabric of our society. So I think that sort of the coming together, the breaking of bread, the getting to know, and the listening, I think really are something that each of us should feel that call to do, versus just, sitting in, our own little bubbles and sort of pointing fingers. We do really have a responsibility. And when I think about us specifically, those that are part of your community, Eden, that are believers, we are to share the good news, and we are to be. When I think about the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, we are to help take that which is in heaven and help repair and restore here. That is, we have been made new, and we have a call to be able to do that same thing. And so in doing that, getting to know our neighbors, getting to know those that are part of our civic community, helping to understand and lift up, certainly that doesn't mean for us to be pushovers and, fall back, but it does mean, we need to speak truth, and we need to show sunlight. You mentioned earlier about seeing corruption in lots of different places. Like, we do need to shed light on that, but we also need to come alongside and help build others up. So I will say one last thing out of COVID, that I think what we saw are just a lot of individuals that were isolated, and, the mental health related issues. I'm not an expert in that area, but we are seeing increases certainly in suicide attempts and suicide completes. We're seeing individuals that are highly depressed. But it's about not being known, not being seen, not feeling connected. And I think us as believers, us as women in particular, we're social creatures, that we can come and see and know and come alongside, and we can help bring about that restoration. So.
Well, on the mental health note, Monday is World Mental Health Day, October the 10th. And we are going to be doing all next week mental health topics and conversations, and really diving into from the elementary to adult, and also the veteran and the military aspects of it as well. And actually, this Friday, we're going to be bringing to the show Christian Anschutz. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah.
You know him?
Not very well. I know his wife, Jill.
Yes.
She's incredible.
He's coming to the show to talk about Task Force,
Great.
Task Force Tribute, and also Reload. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that. But that conversation is going to kick off next week of mental health. And I think I agree with you. The more we talk about it, the more we connect, and even yesterday, one of our neighbors just moved here from the Ukraine. She is Ukrainian.
Wow.
Her husband was in the 82nd Airborne, moved them here, and decided to go back to the Ukraine to help and do strategy with the soldiers. And I saw her yesterday, and she's raising 2 little babies, and we're just wanting to support her and be there for her. But, he could be over there for the next couple months. And, that connectivity, that community, and empowering those around us, no matter whatever walk their life they're in. One final note I was thinking as you were talking was, I think these phones that we're holding up, I think we look too much at these phones and not into the eyes of people.
Amen. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too.
Oh, I mean, I'm singing to the choir right here, because my husband always holds me accountable, and I'm grateful for that. But he was like, okay, enough of the phone. And John Eldridge, who I know you're very familiar with, he's doing a series on unplugging from the phone.
Great.
And setting up something. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to let you go and get your day started off at work. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship and for the power of your words this morning. And Katherine Haley, founder, partner of Oak Rose Group, my dear friend, I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for kicking off my morning with me today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Eden. And just, you're an extraordinary leader, and I'm so impressed by you. So thank you for the opportunity to come and join you today.
Oh, my pleasure. I love you, friend. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
And for all of those who were tuning in this morning, it is just about 10 till 10 on Wednesday, October the 5th. It is 2022. I can't believe it. We are just looking at 81 days until Christmas, 33 days until midterm elections. And if you have not engaged in the conversation today, please hop on Instagram, on Rumble, on my website, on LinkedIn. We have been getting great reviews there. I am so grateful for all the women who are surrounding me, women in leadership, from my time in Washington to my time in New York, and now living here in Eastern North Carolina. I'm grateful for each and every one of your support. Also, as I mentioned, we are going to be focusing on mental health awareness next week. We are bringing to the show Marcy Friesner. She's the director of Salt and Light Academy. She's the author of His Child. It is a 40-day devotional, and she will be coming to us to talk about that. She's also going to be speaking at the Trinity Health Expo in Chicago on the 15th of October. She will be talking about mental health awareness and her role as a safe house mom for human trafficking. So it will be a power-packed next week. We also, as you saw in the news headlines, it looks like Elon Musk bought Twitter. It looks like it's going in that direction. Next week, we will have Young Voices joining us to talk about that. And then also next week, he will be doing an analysis of what that looks like and what's to come. Also next week, every Friday, remember everyone deployed, remember our veterans and their families. We will be talking again with some great guests. And one last thing, we're going to be doing some fun teasers. This microphone, my car, we're hitting the road. On Saturday, October the 15th, I'm headed to DC. I'm going to be seeing some dear friends, then to Pennsylvania, then to the Battleground Speakers Tour with Salem Radio, and then to upstate New York. And it looks as though apple picking, pumpkin patches, baking apple pies, talking with some amazing Salem radio hosts, including Krista Gall, the 990 AM talk radio, along with Zeb Gorka. and Mike Gallagher, and I think Prager is going to be there. It's going to be a power-packed week for sure. Also visiting with Ever Vigilant co-author Dr. Jennifer London, and a Navy event in Washington, D.C. that I will have the honor to just be surrounded by so many people who are supporting our active duty and who are also supporting our veterans. So on that note, we have just a few minutes left. I am going to get prepped because I'm going to speak to a bunch of high schoolers, middle schoolers, and elementary schoolers and talking about getting out, getting the vote. They are doing special elections at Salt and Light Academy. So I'm taking some of my palm cards from May. I'm going to be talking to them about who's their audience and what is their campaign slogan. We're going to have a blast. I am grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for following me. And also, I just wanted to send out a couple comments from social media. On my Instagram page, Jen, who I know from the Republican Women's Group, she is so thrilled. She said, I'm tuning in today. I can't wait. I'm so excited for you and your work. And this was in regards to my celebration of the first month of Common Sense America Radio, my streaming podcast with many powerful voices, friends, women of faith, women in leadership, authors, and many more. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. She had commented she was so happy to hear about the show. Couldn't wait to check it out. A friend in Ohio said, I'm so happy for you. This is exciting. And she's been listening in. Also, Elizabeth Nader, who has started her own PR agency. She's with Common Sense New Jersey, the Common Sense New Jersey Club. And she had commented about loving the title Common Sense America. And I'm so grateful for all of these powerful women who are supporting me, from Kimberly Willingham Hubbard to Mallory Carroll now, Michelle Rigby-Assad, Marcy Friesner, tomorrow, Melanie Colette, Money Talk with Melanie. Also, Cynthia Farahat, who has a new bestseller, The Secret Apparatus. Holly K. Dunn and her book. She is a CBS 48 Hours special guest on her story, The Soul Survivor. Peggy Grandy, former colleague of mine in the Trump administration, and also former executive secretary to Ronald Reagan post the White House years. Also, my dear friend Barbara from Harlem, who has her radio show every Saturday, Our Urban Story, with her daughter Bibi on the Blue Network. And then my dear friend and former Fox News colleague, Elizabeth Pran. She is also at CNN Headline News. And then my dear friend at the Bowery Mission, Julia Romaine. I'm grateful for her. And then finally, Donna Jackson with Project 21, all very powerful women. And then today, you got to hear Katherine Haley with the Oak Rose Group, another dear, powerful friend, women in leadership and women of faith. And then also on my Facebook page, as I was posting last night, a teaser about harvest season being here in October, special segments coming up. I also wanted to let you know, yes, we are doing, I'm grateful for those who said that they would teach me how to bake pies. My mom has tried to teach me for many years. And so I'm getting comments. Michelle Nix said, for a great apple pie, get with Marty C. She is a dear friend of ours here in Eastern North Carolina. She said, they're the best apple pies I've ever had. So it looks like I may have some people willing to help me with this baking adventure. My husband knows I cannot bake, but I'm grateful that he has allowed my friends like Marlene to come alongside of me and bake pies for him instead. On that note, it is just about 10 o'clock. We're going to call it a day. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. God bless you. And remember, put on the full armor of God, just like America's governor always says. And if you are wanting to get involved, I'll leave you on this note. Volunteer for Florida. They are looking for volunteers. They have many different opportunities. The website is volunteer.volunteerflorida.org. Get involved. They are looking for they have a ton of opportunities to get involved, to help with the elderly, to help with the young children, to help across the state. So if you're looking for ways to serve in your community, this is an ideal way to get involved. But as Governor DeSantis says, put on the full armor of God. As I say every day at the end of the show, put on the full armor of God. It is time to get to work. God bless you. Love you guys. We will see you tomorrow.